If you're learning English for work, do you ever feel self-conscious about how you sound? Like, are you distracted by thoughts in your head about what others are thinking about your pronunciation? If you're clear, if you're understandable, do these kinds of things distract you from doing your job, living your life, performing at work? So today I want to share with you a little bit about how I help my students face pronunciation challenges, but not just pronunciation, also the confidence challenges that come with trying to improve your pronunciation for work and career. In case you don't know me, my name is Richard Dalton. I'm the owner of Big World English. Over the last 15 years, I've taught thousands of students how to speak confidently for their work, trained hundreds of English teachers, and I've helped start language schools around the world. So I'm not exactly going to give you pronunciation training in this video, but instead tell you what are the steps that you need to take and show you the impact it can have on your speech. So first, I want to introduce you to my student, Emmy. Emmy is a researcher in the United States and she works in academia. So she's teaching, she's conferencing, she's researching, she's doing a lot of conversations with her colleagues and her students. And this feeling of not being proud of her voice was really distracting and it made her feel self-conscious and have kind of a low self-esteem.
Sometimes when I want to answer the questions or sometimes to clarify or justify everything to my supervisors, gets me in trouble because I cannot convey my meaning to my supervisor because in I think in my brains of the supervisor, in my mind of the supervisor, he's laughing me. So I would rather to be quiet.
So the first thing that we did together is something called a contrastive phonemic analysis. We looked at the relationship between her first language, all of the sounds, and her English, and what was missing between the two. In other words, Emmy's first language is Farsi. And in Farsi, she has a number of sounds, which makes the phonemic inventory of Farsi. These are sounds that exist in Farsi that might exist in English. Many of them do exist in English, but there were some sounds in English that don't exist in Farsi, just like there are sounds in Farsi which don't exist in English. So this is the first place that we started with her listening. So after putting together this inventory, we had a map of her accent, and we were able to look line by line exactly which sounds she was unable to hear. And then from there, we were able to identify exactly where the problems in her speech would occur because you cannot say what you cannot hear. It makes sense, right? Once she was able to hear those sounds very clearly every time, then we started to work on her ability to produce those sounds. We were working with the muscles in her mouth, her tongue, her teeth, and giving her directions on how to shape the sounds manually and mechanically with the muscles in her face so that she could start to hear the sound coming out of her own mouth. Once she was able to hear the sounds very clearly, even though it felt weird making new shapes in her mouth with muscles that she doesn't ever use, she started to begin to feel more natural saying those sounds over time because she was confident that she knew what those sounds were supposed to sound like. Once she began to feel comfortable making those sounds and hearing those sounds, then she was able to pronounce language more clearly and in a more connected way. This made her fluency much stronger because instead of saying, for example, back and forth and focusing on each individual word and sound, she could say it fluently like back and forth. This made a new foundation for her to focus on the stress and rhythm of the language. So, one thing that was a big difference in the before and after is that at first, Emmy's stress sounded kind of robotic and mechanical. She would say each word very clearly like that, but it wasn't connected together in fluid speech.
Cannot convey my meaning to my supervisor.
Later, after she started building that new foundation, she began to focus on stress and rhythm in a new way. And naturally, her own speech began to take a new shape as a result.
As a international students, as a non-native speakers, Obviously I have a lot of problem. I make a lot of mistakes in grammar or vocab. So it's all of the native speakers accept that, okay, she's not the native speaker.
She didn't really have to memorize how to do it. She just was able to feel it out in conversations. And as a result, she sounds much more natural and she sounds more like herself when she speaks. But one of the other really big parts of this is that we also looked at the way this challenge with listening and pronunciation affected her confidence, her mindset and mentality, and her self consciousness, her self confidence. So a lot of this has to do with identity and image. Accent is more complicated than just if you're able to say a specific word or not. There are real social consequences that Emmy and emotional consequences that Emmy was wrestling with at work. So we also worked on that dimension and how to build up her confidence. So the other thing that you will notice about Emmy and the after is that she's just much more confident. She's freely making mistakes and she's not so concerned about them. She's not letting it stop the flow of conversation. She tries to catch mistakes, but overall, she's diving in. She's taking risks. Today, I'm sharing Emmy's story as part of a promotion for a new coaching program that I will be doing starting next week on June 17th and 18th. I'm inviting 9 people to a coaching program with me. It's 6 weeks long. What will we do? For 2 hours each week, you will meet with me directly, and I will coach you on how to clarify your pronunciation exactly like we've done with Emmy. So, if this is something that you need to overcome to improve your fluency, to have a better impact at work, to grow your career, take new opportunities, and you know right now is the time, then please click the link below and join us. We would love to have you. Thanks again for watching and checking this out. Of course, like and subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video.